Today, in this video, we're asking the somewhat controversial question, is it okay for a church to post something like this on social media? Now, the example post we've got here, it's a pretty innocuous question post. Who makes the best fast food burger? Culver's, In-N-Out, Whataburger, Shake Shack, Five Guys, or other? Now, while this question is fresh in your mind, what I want you to do is leave your answer to this question in the comments below. Now, for me, it's gotta be In-N-Out, but I wanna hear from you. So add your voice to the comments, make your voice heard. Back to the topic at hand, is it appropriate for a church to post something like this on one of their social media platforms? Because sure, this kind of post is useful for driving engagement, but it doesn't have anything to do with spirituality, right? With faith? Well, finding an answer to this question is actually fairly straightforward for me, especially when you test it against your church's social media policy. Now, if you don't have one of those, we're gonna get you sorted in this video, and we'll answer this question once and for all. So let's dive in. Well, hey there, I'm Brady Shearer. This is Pro Church Tools, and we're here to help you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. If we're just meeting for the first time, consider subscribing. And if you aren't already, follow me on Instagram at Brady Shearer. That's where I'm posting my most timely content throughout the week and where I'm responding to DMs. So if you want to get in touch with me personally, that's your best bet. Again, it's at Brady Shearer on Instagram. Now, the example post I used at the top of this video is really just one example of this kind of content. Food-related posts are always great for driving engagement, but you could take a different route altogether and ask your church's opinions, like what's a beloved TV series that you absolutely despise, or what's the ideal temperature in your home? Basically, these are the kinds of posts that turn the focus over to your audience, your congregation, and asks them to get involved and post their comments. It's unrelated to faith, but does it have a place in a church's overall social media strategy? Well, here's my belief. Your church's social presence should be an extension of your existing culture. So let me ask you this. Has your church ever played softball together? Or sports during a VBS maybe? Have you hosted a movie night before or an outdoor barbecue? What about an Easter egg drop? Or maybe a student ministry game night? Watch the big game on the big screen, affinity-based life groups. You get what I'm saying here? And so I could ask the same question. What do those events and activities have to do with your church's mission? Because they aren't inherently spiritual on their own. Here's the bottom line. If your church's programming isn't exclusively quote unquote spiritual offline, then I'd recommend applying that same energy to your online efforts. Otherwise, you're treating social differently than the rest of your ministries. And you don't want that. You want congruency and consistency. Now, let's dive into this a bit deeper. Why do we as churches host events and ministries that include activities or socializing in the first place? Why gather at all if we aren't specifically listening to a sermon or worshiping with music? Well, we do those kinds of things because we know that being part of a vibrant Christian community includes spending time together, sharing meals, participating in activities alongside others. A church community demands these kinds of things because if all we do is sit in a service while a pastor preaches at us, well, that's not true community. It's more just programming. A foundational element of church, of course, but if I don't have opportunities to talk and get to know the people sitting next to me in those pews, well, there's a substance and depth that I'm gonna miss out on. So we have events like this, we have small groups for the purpose of finding and developing these life-giving friendships and relationships within church. And believe it or not, your social efforts can help facilitate the same thing. Instead of just talking at your audience online all the time, a post that asks them a fun question and elicits their feedback is a great way to put the spotlight on the people of your church. Now, if you're still hesitant on this, let's explore another angle. I'll lead with a question. Has your pastor ever gotten a laugh from stage while they're preaching? Have they ever shared a personal anecdote or illustration with a comedic element to it? Because most preachers will do this, and they do this for a strategic purpose. It's a disarming technique, and it makes the audience more comfortable and works at building a rapport between the speaker and the listener. And this is why funny elements of sermons generally happen earlier in the message. You're building that comfort with the audience, basically to earn permission to then dive into the deeper elements of spirituality and faith and all that entails. Now, if all your preacher did was make jokes, well, they wouldn't really be a preacher, they'd be a comedian, right? So Hear me loud and clear on this. I'm not suggesting you only post lighthearted question posts or similar kinds of content. Sprinkle them in once or twice a week as part of your overall strategy. Because here's the thing, a lighthearted social post is analogous to weaving in some funny parts into a sermon. They serve the same purpose. On social, posts like this drive big numbers on the engagement front, and they signal to the social algorithms that your account succeeds at involving your audience, which means the algorithms are more likely to show your content to more people in the future. So in the same way a funny story in a sermon helps to build trust with a group of people before diving deeper into matters of faith, a fun social post earns that same attention, just online, paving the way for more people to see and engage with the more substantive content later that week. It's the same strategic approach. So my belief is, if your pastor has ever gotten a laugh during a sermon, you have permission to post a fun, engagement-driving social post online because the motivations are the same. And again, we want consistency here. Don't treat social different just because it's newer. And then let's ask ourselves, how does a post like this align, if at all, with our church's social media policy? Now, if you don't already have a social policy within your church, I highly recommend that you create one. And that's because a policy makes discussions like this so much easier and productive, especially when you're making decisions in conjunction with your pastor or other leaders. Instead of arguing the merits for and against a certain idea, the questions need to be asked in context of the greater mission for the ministry in question. So a social media policy helps drive that conversation because it's the foundation for the ministry that is unanimously agreed upon. So I put together a whole workshop on this. It's called the Social Media Crash Course for Smaller Churches. And the first thing we tackle in that free workshop is putting together a social media policy for your church. It even comes with a downloadable policy template that you can customize and implement or just use as is if you prefer. That's perfectly all right also. It's completely free. It's just a Google Doc that you can start using right away. The workshop is also completely free. It's linked above me and in the description below. And then lastly, let's talk about which platforms a post like this makes the most sense on. In my experience, Facebook groups and Instagram stories are where you'll see the most engagement. The Facebook feed and the Instagram feed, it can also work, but not as well for most churches. But with all of these things, it's best to experiment and see how your own unique audience responds. With that being said, thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust, and we'll talk soon.